Is that any better? Hello! We did it. I think we're the green bubbles show that we're speaking this time. Thanks for bearing with us, and welcome to the P. No, I think they get it. I'm here. You're my husband. You're here. Thanks everyone for telling us that we were on mute. That's what you're here for. We appreciate you, and we're talking about Columbo today.
Yep.
And everyone say a big warm welcome to my dad, who I think is going to be watching my live stream for the very first time, because we're talking about Columbo, a subject that he is eminently interested in. I'm confident that he'll watch this. If not right now, then later. So everyone say hello, Poe's dad, and make him feel welcome. And we started watching Columbo, I think about 18 months, 2 years ago.
It was roughly that, when I stuck on prescription for murder.
It's called Prescription Murder.
Yeah, prescription murder, as in they're prescribing murder.
Yeah, it's about a doctor who...
Psychologist,
he's a psychiatrist who kills his wife using his mistress as an
your premise
alibi.
for the stream is that we're not going to analyse every episode since we don't have time for that.
We are absolutely not. There's no time for that. I want to talk about today the formula for an excellent Columbo episode and our headcanon, as the kids call it.
The platonic ideal of a Columbo episode.
Yes, yeah. The first episode is a very, very good Columbo episode, and it really cements many of the formulas that would make the show very successful and very good going forward. So if you've never seen Columbo before, and for some reason you're watching this stream, I really recommend watching the first episode, the pilot, Prescription Murder, which was originally...
The first pilot.
It was written as a play originally.
Yeah.
And we've been not only watching it, but in preparation for the stream, my husband has prepared graphs, data.
Yeah, I don't think that after preparing them, I don't think it really shows anything apart from that the reboot was significantly flabbier, which I don't think is that surprising.
I'm still glad we watched it.
It's good. There are terrible episodes in both, and there are good episodes in both. It's just that there are a lot more and a lot more consistently good episodes in the original series. But yeah, there's a good chunk of solid Columbo episodes in the reboot. It's not a complete waste of time. It's not like an offensive.
It scratches the itch.
Yeah,
I think. And although in some ways, as the show goes on, we've been reading a book about Columbo. It's called Shooting Columbo, and it's a series of interviews. It's just an account of what it was like to come up with the characters, the story, the formula, and then actually shooting the episodes, making all the episodes, and what happened with the cast and the crew. We're not going to go into all that detail here, but it is interesting to see where the ideas came from and how the actor Peter Falk, who plays Columbo, gradually took more and more of the show. The show was massively popular, and he was the element that was the only common element throughout the entire show.
I mean, it follows the same pattern that you always see in TV shows, is that when they're successful, whoever's the starring role in those shows ends up being executive producer, having a big say, and as the time goes on, whatever idea they had of that character becomes the character, because they have the veto, and a lot of the time the original creators actually leave, and it's just the star left, because as far as the audience is concerned, that's the show. That is the show.
Columbo, it's him. He's the only, you can replace every single other element, and it can still be
an
Columbo.
extreme example of that is Star Trek, where the TV show is under the direction of the creators, but as they go into the films, Patrick Stewart Picard becomes what Patrick Stewart wants Picard to become, which is just absolutely nothing like.
So all of that is
Peter Falk's idea of what Columbo is not aligned with the original creators. It's similar. It's
similar, but it's Flanderized. It's like times 1,000. It's kind of just every aspect of it is magnified.
I wouldn't say it's times. I'd say it's like 20 degrees to the side. It's a little off. I think you could have a lot of scenes from Peter Falk's Columbo and Levinson and Link's, the creators' idea of Columbo. I think a lot of scenes in a lot of Columbo shows would be the same with both their ideas of characters. It's just, and we talked about it before, that Columbo, there's an ambiguity there about how much the Columbo character is playing the Columbo character.
The detective is playing up all of his bumbling personality traits.
It's ambiguous whether you're seeing 100% some guy. There's like he's a super genius outside of this, and he's putting it all on, or he's a bit like this and he's exaggerating it.
Yeah.
It's ambiguous. I think in Peter Falk's version, there is no putting anything on. That is just Columbo is Columbo, and he's smart, but he's also
like that when he
bumbling.
goes home, and he's like that when he's interrogating the suspect.
In sort of Levinson and Link's version of Columbo, they play with that. Like you're not sure. Is he like this? Did he forget his pencil, or is that a trick?
Yeah, right. No, I mean, I think it's almost explicit. So we were just watching the pilot again, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, is the ideal Columbo, like where it started. I think that perfect synthesis of Peter Falk and Levinson and Link in the first season, and especially in that first episode, where it really comes across that you don't know who you're looking at. Detective Columbo, he's not what he seems. What he's pretending to be, he's explicitly putting on an act for the suspect. It's an extended interrogation of this extremely arrogant murderer who thinks he's got away with it. His plan was perfect, and here comes this bumbling, shabby, like low class, like slightly dull police officer investigator who's going to try and find who murdered him. Like this is a dream come true. This murderer, he's got the easiest, softest ball to bat.
Yeah, I mean the general structure of the Columbo. I mean, there's lots of ones that deviate from this, and they're for the worst for it. But if we go back to the Platonic ideal of the Columbo episode, it's the arrogant, smart, evil villain who comes up with a way to kill somebody and executes it extremely well. You watch him do it, and it's all over. He's done it. It's worked. And then the police turn up, and it's a bumbling idiot.
Yeah.
And he's almost... There's an arc from he's just an irritation. Like there's a lot of police around, and there's this irritating, clumsy one. And then it builds and builds and builds when they're like they specifically know him. He comes back to them. There's a bounce back and forth, and you get to see the villain's understanding of Columbo, from like continually underestimating. They
find him like adorable sometimes. Yeah, they're like, they're so pleased that it's him. Like, oh, thank goodness it's Columbo and not some smart detective.
Yeah,
I've really got this.
At the start, they're kind of pleased, or they're irritated because they've done everything. They just didn't expect the police to be irritating and clumsy and leave like cigar ash.
Yeah, it depends on the villain.
Yeah.
It's fun to see all the different ways that they react to Columbo. But the point is that this is his way of putting them off their guard. He catches them by surprise with his intellect.
That is the ambiguous part.
Yes, yeah. How much is an act?
Yeah. Is he bumbling, or is he putting on a bumbling, or is he exaggerating his bumbling? And like, because it's very rare for him to state that he knows that this person did it.
Yeah, until he absolutely has to. He'll tell them that he's their friend.
Well,
he's just there to clean up.
The audience is in that position as well, because he hangs around this person, and he gives justifications for hanging around them. And at some point, he suspects them. But I think there's one episode I can think of where he states when he. I
think you're wrong, and this is where I'm going to come into the omniscient ghost theory.
Yeah, okay.
At the extreme end, they hardly ever stick to this, but Levinson and Link, the creators, they set these rules for Columbo that you would never find out his first name, that you would never see his office, where he lives. You would never see his wife or anyone that he knows. Yep. And very rarely in the early episodes do you see him interact with police officers even. It's just him and the people he needs to talk to, the suspect, the people he's interrogating, the witnesses. Those are the only people he talks to. So it's effectively like he's an Inspector Ghoul, where he's just like out of a puff of cigar smoke, he appears, and he's there like a telltale heart to bother the suspect, the murderer, into confessing.
He's like a manifestation of justice.
But I think the best episodes, he appears, he immediately knows. Like, he's seen everything that we, the audience, saw. He saw the opening. He knows how the murder was done. He doesn't even have to talk to anyone.
I mean,
it seems that way.
You can think that he knows, but that is where it's interesting, because he doesn't. You don't know that he knows. You could headcanon it that he knows.
Yeah,
but that is where it becomes interesting, because you go like, does he know that this guy did it? You know he did it because you watched the first 10 minutes.
The clues that he uncovers, you can see it as like, oh, he's figuring out how it was done. Or you can just figure it out as, you can just imagine that these are the clues that he's presenting to the murderer as a way to make them, to wear them down, to worry them. You know, he turns up, they don't really want to see him. They talk, and he presents them with a few inconsistencies, and they just sort of talk their way through it. They bat away these niggling details. But it just keeps piling up and up and up until, like, just psychologically he's broken them. Like, I think I really like to imagine him as like this really like sadistic. You know, he's like torturing these murderers just for the delight of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a telltale heart aspect to it, or at least it feels like that. I mean, that's the thing. There aren't that many really good Columbo episodes. There are a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of like flawed ones. Peter Falk keeps it up, and also especially in the pre-reboot series, like the guest stars are usually quite good, and they're quite well acted. So you got the baseline sort of interaction between Columbo and the suspect is usually pretty good. Some of the story structure is sometimes a bit iffy, and sometimes there's a lot of filler. There's some weird choices in there, especially towards the end where Peter Falk gets more opportunities to stick some Columbo Peter Falk-esque jokes. We noticed. Yeah. He has a very,
you can kind of tell,
like, a lame sense of humour.
He lays it on quite thick.
Yeah.
With Columbo, it's really surprising when you go back to that first episode to see how understated he makes the character. He's got the raincoat and the cigar.
Yeah.
And he's got this kind of simple way of talking, but he's not really hamming it up like he does.
Yeah, he's just. He's realistically schlubby.
Yeah.
He's sort of like, as you would imagine, somebody that, is a working Joe in the police force who could look at the lower end. Like, he's got a suit on, he's got a tie, he's trying to make himself presentable. He's just, he hasn't got an expensive suit on, he hasn't got an expensive coat on, but he's trying to be presentable. And like later on, it just becomes like he's living in a trash can or whatever.
He's got this big, ugly dog. It's a big old dog that you kind of imagine it smells bad. Like, he doesn't have a name for the dog.
He takes the dog to the suspect's house.
He's peeling a boiled egg and leaving he's leaving eggshell around the crime scene.
I think so. Some of it's like you could have. That's the thing when I say you could have a scene. I think you could have one scene where he does that in maybe one episode or a few episodes. But like I say, it's 20 degrees, a bit too much when Peter Falk gets his way. He's a bit too silly.
Do you think
he never gets? I don't think he gets completely flanderized, even with Peter Falk there. He's not completely silly, but I think he's just a bit too much.
And do you think the audience liked that at the time, though?
Yeah, I think it's like the peanut gallery kind of laughs. Like, it's fun. Like, it is like a cheap laugh. Like, oh, he's the policeman.
He does it well.
But it undermines the character a little bit. Like, it doesn't destroy the character.
I have to say, some of the best scenes that I've written, when we're talking about looking back on this show, asking about what's your favorite episode, and there's really there's the killer and the mystery. It's like a completely different subject almost to talking about the Columbo element. Like, I really liked Columbo in the episode where he's apparently that's that line where he asks the suspect where he got his shoes and how much they cost. People thought that was hilarious because he's this really low class guy. He can't afford expensive shoes. He's like a police officer. He turns up in these and he's asking this extremely wealthy, famous man where he buys his shoes.
It goes back to the exact same point before, where it's like, is he asking this guy because he wants to buy a pair, like a $60 pair of shoes that are the same price as, say, $70, or is he just saying that to put the suspect off? Like, to go, this guy's a retard.
Absolutely the latter, in my opinion. I will always go for that, because
Yeah.
that's the version of Columbo that I prefer to watch. It's where it is as much of an act as I can make myself believe, which is why I really dislike it when Columbo, when he's not with the suspect, when he's like on his own on his car and he starts acting like that. It's like, who's he putting this on for?
That's definitely
It breaks down my my theory, our theory. Yeah, I mean, it's right there in the we've got this Columbo meme. This is not mine, by the way, what we're looking at on the screen. This was the of course the famous picture from Always Sunny. The dentist.
Are you showing this?
Yeah, it's showing.
Okay,
yeah.
That's what they're saying.
Number one, it's the Columbo system. Number one is C for compliment suspect, and I think this is. I really do enjoy that part of the episode where he turns up. He's just like I said. I think he already knows that this person did it, or he's pretty sure. He just turns up and he's going like, "Oh, this is a lovely house." Like, "Oh, what did you get something like that?" He's like telling, "Oh, my wife loves your work." He's laying it on really thick with making himself as unsuspecting as possible. Like he's just there. He's having a good time. He doesn't even think that it was murder. He probably thinks it's suicide. He's only there to placate his superiors, or because he's got a nagging, one nagging detail that's annoying him that he needs to clean up. Like he's not there to accuse you of murder. You're all right. We talked about how the murderer in many of the episodes, and especially in this pilot, is the protagonist. Like we follow the murderer.
Yeah.
And Columbo is almost acting like the villain, where he's just there to disrupt the protagonist's beautiful plan.
It's a Richard III kind of structure where like you get to see you're empathizing with the bad guy, and he does his thing, and then he gets undone. Like the bad guy loses, but you get to you see it from the bad guy's point of view. So yeah, you empathise with him. And part of you kind of hopes that he gets away with it.
You're kind of on, not that you hope that he does, but you're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, he's the character you've hang out with. Like whenever you do that, it's like hard not to empathise with that character to some degree.
And they always get the sort of celebrity guest stars, although they're probably not as famous now as they were when that was on TV.
Well, I mean, they're generally, even if you don't know them, they had a reputation of being a good actor.
Yeah,
they were solid actors, so there's something for folk to play against. I mean, that's the enjoyable part is you watching them, this unique character. As I explained to you, like it's like with Columbo, it's like watching your favorite film over and over again. But the thing that makes it interesting is that you're watching it with somebody new that you want to show this thing to. So in Columbo, it's like that in that you get to see somebody's introduction to Columbo.
Yeah.
And it's the villain. Like you know that Columbo is going to bust him, but you want to see like how is he going to do it and how does he react to Columbo's. Yeah. Is he going to be enamored by Columbo? Is he going to be irritated by them?
You get this beautiful, I think they call it poetic irony, when you know something that the person you're watching doesn't know. So you know what Columbo's like going to rip this guy apart, but he thinks Columbo's just like annoying, or he thinks he's cute. He's funny. Whatever it is, it's kind of funny just to see someone not realize what they're in for.
Yeah.
It's like watching a prank or something. Like this guy is about to have his whole world torn apart and he has no idea. He thinks he's got away with it. He's at like the highest point of his like self-satisfaction.
Yeah, and there is the element of that generally, or at least the better episodes, the murderer's done it in a very clever way. I mean, it kind of gets into one of the other reoccurring aspects of Columbo, which is like the gimmick of the week. So usually in a Columbo episode, the bad guy is an expert in a speciality, and often that speciality is like a high-tech thing, or a high-tech thing back in the day.
Yeah,
like mobile phones in like the early 90s, late 80s one. This answer machine plays a big role in one of them. What other ones? There was a digital watch and a CCTV episode, and that was like, yeah. So Columbo, I mean, I think that what that does is just, again, tries to raise the stakes for Columbo, in that Columbo doesn't understand this. most of the time the audience don't even understand how this stuff works or haven't even heard of it, and then Columbo is coming up against a murder that's been covered up using this new technology, and it plays off in two ways. One is like, oh, how is Columbo going to learn about it? But also Columbo uses his ignorance as a weapon against the murderer, because he says like, oh, can you explain this? How does this work?
Yeah. Oh, I can't possibly solve this murder until you explain
this. Could you use this to do that? Like, because that's often the moment is when Columbo like is actually like 10 steps ahead, and like he figures out how the murder was done, or he just says it to he presents it in like, oh, I really like how that thing works. I guess you could use that to do this, and that's how the murder happened. Like then you see the murderer's reaction to that. Like, oh yes, Columbo, obviously you could do that if you had this and this, or they dismiss it and go like, Columbo, that's impossible because of this. Like they've tried to blind him with science. And then sometimes he will come back with like a little bit more, like he understands it a little bit more than he's letting on.
I think that's the other interesting thing is the murderer not knowing how seriously to take Columbo. At first, they're not taking him seriously at all, and then as he's revealing that he's figured a few things out, they start to wonder: am I a suspect? Does Columbo really suspect me?
Yeah.
Has he figured some of it out? And do I have to let on that I think I'm a suspect? That there's this like mind game that they have to play together, where the Columbo's laying it on like he's only probing them as much as he has to, but always in an unassuming way, like super polite, still flattering them, so that there's this sort of plausible deniability, like, oh no, you're not a suspect, it's just that I need to keep bringing these things to you in order for you to explain it to me.
I mean, that's the dance towards the mid-end of each episode is the amount that Columbo pushes it. Like, you get the moment where they go like, Columbo, do you suspect me of this? And you're like, well, yeah, I could have done it, but Columbo, there's that moment when Columbo always, until maybe, there's a few episodes where he holds on a little bit longer. So there's a few episodes of the camera episode with the Chim Chimney, Dick Van Dyke, where like Columbo is masked off in that episode toward the end, where he confronts him. He says like, I know you murdered your wife, and like he doesn't act like friendly and clumsy and like nice to the guy. He's like, you killed your wife, you did it with this, I know you did it. And then the guy goes like, well, you can't prove that, Columbo. And it's like the gazump at the end.
That's the last element I wanted to talk about. Is he doesn't just like wear them down so they confess. He often, the best episodes, he tricks them. He makes them reveal that they know something only the murderer could have known, or he makes them do something that they don't know implicates them. Yeah. He's laid a trap for them, and they often, through hubris or through anger, they fall into it.
Yeah, they still underestimate him right to the end, even when they keep increasing their rating of Columbo, but it's never enough.
Well, yeah, there's that happens quite often, but there is also this element. I think we haven't watched it for a while. Was it JCS interrogations kind of commentary on YouTube?
Every, 6 months or something.
It was an interesting thing to watch alongside Columbo, not literally at the same time, but there's these this YouTuber. He talks through these interrogation videos and talks about the putting pressure on people, because no matter how smart someone is, if you just keep overloading them with questions, you have to literally torture someone to get them to be worn down just by the mental load of trying to continue lying or to make explanations, or even just asking them ask people to make difficult decisions even. By just continually bombarding people with questions, they eventually, because it's easier to tell the truth than to tell a lie. You can just tie them in knots and eventually they'll have to tell the truth because they've just lost all of their will to continue with the conversation. That's the basic. Well, that's one basic tactic of interrogations, like real life interrogations. These are, and when we were watching that, I'm watching Columbo. It really does seem to me that is one tactic that Columbo is using, whether the writers know about interrogation or not. That this he just keeps coming back, and they become increasingly worried, increasingly anxious, increasingly like hating Columbo. So they just want it to stop. This is too difficult.
I mean, they never end the episode with them just like giving up because Columbo keeps bothering them too much.
But he eventually throws them something they cannot explain. That he backs them into a corner, and we don't ever get to see whether these accusations stand up in court or whether he has any actual evidence that can be presented. But
I mean, he raps on and initially the crime is perfect, so they're fairly sure that nobody could ever figure it out, and they get more and more ruffled by the fact that somebody is figuring out how they did it. The kind of proving it is basically just a hand wave.
Yeah, I think it's a TV show. It's a
conceit of the show. That's generally why they just confess at the end.
Yeah.
There's generally the climax, the pop at the end is a fairly significant jump up in. It's not just circumstantial, the evidence they usually have at the end, and then you get the confession. So it's mostly satisfying in that. It's like, if you start breaking it down legally, maybe some of these cases wouldn't hold up.
Yeah, I mean, all of these cases would be an open and shut case if the murderer just said, "I'm not talking to you, Columbo. I want to see my lawyer." That would be it. That's the end of the episode. They've got away with it. But the fact that they think they've got away with it, they don't believe they're even a suspect, often leads them to give themselves enough. What's the expression? Enough rope to hang yourself with.
I think that's the whole going back to it. It's like that's how Columbo works. He turns up and is so disarming and is so not the guy that's going to put them in jail that they're kind of he's asking them for help. Like that's their ideal. I can tell the police whatever I want. I can put them in this is ideal. I want to talk to the police and tell them to look over there, or it was probably this, because I want to lead them in the direction that I've set up.
Yeah, well, they framed someone.
It's for them it's fine, and then they're not smart enough to understand my direction. He's asking more questions. It's like I'll just clarify it for him. He's going. He's accidentally got spotted. He's accidentally moved in the direction of suspecting me. He obviously doesn't suspect me because he's dumb, but I just have to move him slightly away. Columbo, you can't. You're misunderstanding. It's over here, and they get invested. It's like the sunken cost fallacy. They keep working at it, and it's depending on the villain. That's what makes it interesting. Is depending on the villain, there's a different sort of outlaying of how that works.
I like the first episode, the bit we just watched, where it's the accessory to the murder, not the man who commits the murder, but his mistress who helps him get away with it.
There's almost no other episodes where there's an accomplice. A second killer or somebody that knows this person did it.
I just like that.
There are some, but
I'm just saying I like that moment where she goes to the phone. She says, "I'm calling my lawyer. I'm not talking to you anymore." And he's still, she's got the receiver in her hand. She's about to call her lawyer, and he still manages to talk her into hanging up and talking to him some more. I mean, that's the art of Columbo. Is just keep them talking. That's how he gets it.
Yeah, I mean that's hard to take to. Yeah, I mean usually they're talking to stupid people because most murderers are just dumb.
Yeah, I like what they said in the book about how Columbo takes place in a mythical version of Los Angeles, which is free of shootouts and car chases and all the dirty crime. It's all really wealthy people who are committing all the murders. It's the most famous, wealthiest person you can think of. That's the murderer.
Yeah, that's what Columbo goes after. That's why he knows every time.
Yeah. While you think of something else to talk about, I'm going to read the super chat from DRT. Thank you so much. And one other thing, the show has an element of techno thriller that one would expect over the series. Hi, post-dad, by the way. That's my, yeah.
Is he just referring to the gimmicks?
I think so, yeah. Techno,
I can't think of anything else.
Techno thriller. Yeah, it is kind of it kind of catches me off guard each time when, often if they're a scientist or they work in some, they use some kind of gimmick. I mean, that's what makes the episode interesting, right? It's like,
I would say, I think often the reason why, I don't think it matters that it's technology, the reason why it's often technology is, like I said, is that it's a go-to for the audience, where the audience doesn't, how do you communicate to the audience that this person is smart? Show, not tell, like, oh, this person is, an author, or he's a psychologist or a doctor. But like the next level of that is to show that he's in a field that maybe the audience hasn't even heard of. Like he's not only an expert, he's an expert in something you might not have heard of, like answering machines or CCTV or mobile phones. Like it's that putting up against Columbo, who is not a high tech guy. It increases the stakes. I said. So it's you're trying to go like, there's this crime is really good, and like how do you make it even harder for Columbo to solve it, or to appear to be able to solve it. And I mean, Columbo, like, often he often he takes all the books home. He said, "Oh, I read all your books over the weekend. We went through them all, and it's like, that reminds me. I noticed in like the second book, you do this thing. That's exactly what you said. Like he often figures out this completely novel technology or speciality, and use it to get at the guy."
Yeah, he picks up on these quickly.
But yeah, I don't think the technological aspect is like fundamental to it, but it does, like, if you don't think of Columbo as being like a high tech show and having lots of high tech in it, but
there's an actual robot in one episode.
Yeah.
Like a humanoid, more like a Dalek looking kind of robot.
It's got to be more than half the episodes have, at least at the time, like a high tech element to it, that the person is. That is the thing that they're using to commit the perfect crime. I think the other half, it's just a speciality. This person.
I mean, the first episode, it's a psychiatrist. It's not like he uses one of his patients.
Yeah, I mean, it's an early Columbo, but there is a psychological. Because I mean, there's a whole bit in there. I mean, kind of the first episode is sort of like a meta Columbo episode, because he sits down and he talks to Columbo and he says, "Oh, like, Columbo, you're not." He psychoanalyzes Columbo and says, like, you're not this bumbling idiot. You're quite smart. You're playing this role, and like, I admire that.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, he really like gets into what the Columbo character is, like, from the pilot episode. And there's always times when you do that. Sometimes you don't do it. It's just especially they're just a person. But I think going back to the platonic ideal of the Columbo episode, I definitely think that having a master in a field committing the crime using that mastery of the field, and then having Columbo not knowing that field at all, and then him mastering it and using it against the master, is like a really like strong Columbo element.
I'm just thinking about that episode where the killer trains some dogs to react to a certain trigger word. He trains the dogs to attack a dummy wearing the clothes of the victim in the same room of the same house with one trigger word. So when the victim is there in those clothes and he says the trigger word, the dogs attack the victim and kill him.
What he does,
and he's nowhere near the scene of the crime at the time.
Because he uses two things against, because in that it's got high tech, kind of the high tech speciality is training the dogs.
Yeah.
But the other thing is the actual high tech in that episode is a heart monitor. The guy can't have killed them because he was having his EKG read at the time, and he phones up the guy and makes him say the kill word, which kills him. But the fact that he was on EKG, Columbo then looks at the EKG and sees that it's spiking. He's lying down. The
excitement of it.
Yeah, he's lying down. He says, like, your EKG's flat, and they left you in the room, and then you took a phone call, and there's this huge spike, in your heart, like what caused that? Yeah, and then on top of that, he also does the.
And then at the end,
so
he turns it around and he baits the murderer into doing the same trick on him, but he's. So what is it? He's got sausages in the pocket. Why did the dogs attack him?
No, they trains him up because there's a tape recorder as well. That's part of it because he leaves the tape recorder on.
Yeah, running when he's just chatting to the guy.
And they're going to kill the dogs because the dogs killed the guy, and like that's the ticking clock in the episode, which is fairly rare in Columbo. So the
dogs are about to die.
The dogs have to be put down,
and then that's the evidence. Yeah.
So, but he's trying to figure out. He thinks that there's a kill word, but he doesn't know what it is. Because he goes to a dog expert and said like, oh yeah, you can train them to whatever, and so he figures out the kill word, and then the audience doesn't know, but he's taken the dogs to be retrained.
Yeah, in like 6 hours. Yeah. Like, how long did that take?
It's not exactly clear. It might have been. And
it's a great like ending where they jump on him and they start licking his face because they're not attacking. You think they're about to attack him, but they like him.
It's one of the because in my mind before rewatching Columbo, I always thought like the suspect attempting to kill Columbo was like a pretty standard staple.
It happens a few times,
but it's not until like later.
And that was one of the rules of Columbo. Like they want the formula for Columbo that it wasn't supposed to be violent. It was supposed to be this battle of wits.
Yeah. But yeah, it's when it's done well usually in Columbo because they integrate that in. That's part of the mastery. Like it's a real like. He's so got them that they're pushed to kill him. Like they go like, I'm going to kill you, Columbo, and then like, I won't be bothered by you anymore. And Columbo doesn't have a gun, so he doesn't like fight them. He's anticipated them trying to kill him.
Yeah, he's figured it out.
And that's part of his plan. Yeah. Like sometimes I think
only the murderer would try to kill me.
Yeah, I think that sometimes that's how he gets them. That's how he proves that they're the murderer, like because they're attempting to murder him.
Yeah.
It's like
maybe that's like an easy well to go to if you haven't got anything else.
I mean, it's generally fine. I mean, like for most of the stuff that they start adding to Columbo is pretty weak. I think that the suspect trying to kill Columbo, it doesn't become every episode.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting because I like the fact that it's a possibility because it makes you think like, will this guy try and kill Columbo? Like really just, he's so irritated by Columbo and he knows how to kill him and he's killed people before. Will he just kill this guy? It just adds, and sometimes they do. They try and kill him.
Would you like to talk through your data? I've had it up on the screen for a while now.
Oh, is that on the screen now?
I think I'm sharing it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't...
Yeah, we're sharing.
So what we got here?
Tell us what you did.
So yeah, I mean, it's just a graph of the IMDb ratings of the episodes. So this is the original...
None of them are above 9 out of 10.
No. Like I say, like if you watch a Columbo episode, most of the time it's kind of like, oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, yeah.
It's like watching Deep Space Nine.
Some of them have got really like, I mean, Port in a Storm. That's one of these.
That's one of the famous episodes. That's,
I should have already put the titles in the thing. I can put that in. You can just talk. I can do it.
Yeah, Port in a Storm is a famously good episode. I don't know exactly what it is. I get it. I don't know why that one in particular was. Who was the actor?
First of all, the actor's quite good because it's Halloween. What's he called?
I don't know.
The good guy in Halloween.
I've got no chance. Jamie Lee Curtis.
It's not Jamie Lee Curtis, but he's. Yeah, he's a good actor. He's like a classic, like British actor, and he's I think he's played kind of semi-sympathetically as well, which is a bit unusual in that he's sympathetic and also the episode is good.
The only thing I remember about it is the ending where they're at the restaurant, and it's a really weird scenario where Columbo has invited them out to dinner.
He's to apologise.
Yeah.
For
suspecting him of being a murderer.
So any port at Storm is a
and the old port in the title is not an actual port, it's a wine.
Yeah.
And the murderer orders this delicious wine from the restaurant, and they pour it out, and he tastes it, and he realizes it's been completely ruined. He's a sommelier. Is that the word for someone who knows about wine?
Yeah.
And he says, "Oh, this wine is terrible. You've ruined it." you stored it at the wrong conditions or whatever.
Yeah, we're shouting it because he takes him to a nice restaurant and he shouts at the restaurant. Yeah,
the restaurateur.
It's perfectly done because you're not sure if Columbo really is trying to apologise because he's invited his wife. Yeah. And then his wife isn't there.
Yeah.
But then he's got like, I'll pay for it. Whatever you want.
Again, it's from the murderer's perspective. We don't know what Columbo's up to, but you know that they're out to dinner.
I mean, Columbo does make a good. I can't remember all the different things he does, but I think he's apologetic enough that you're almost thinking that maybe he does think he's got it wrong. Because I can't remember how towards the end. He obviously doesn't rule him out, but how Columbo appears to rule him out, or how the evidence comes out, it goes like, oh, okay, you're wrong, I was wrong.
Yeah, we got the guy or something.
I want to apologise to you, whatever it is, and like he invites him to the really nice restaurant, and this guy is really into wine, and he goes like, let's order this wine here. It goes like, oh, Columbo, you can't order this wine, it's too expensive. I'm sure they don't even have it because it's so rare, and they do have it. And he goes like, don't worry, I'll buy it, and like the guy is like orgasm because like. He wouldn't even drink this wine most of the time. It's such a special treat, and he's brought his like the woman that's a little aside in the episode because the woman knows that he killed him and wants to marry him.
Right.
She and he goes, oh yeah, the suspect is like, oh, everyone's gonna have a treat here. This is such a good wine. Like everyone will love it. It's just the best wine ever. And like it's really like drawn out. They pour it out, and everyone takes a drink, and it's a bit like the scene in Mulholland Drive where he has the coffee, and you think he's gonna love it because he's hyped it up because you stored it wrong.
Columbo doesn't know the woman doesn't know. They both think it's fine.
They both drink it. They go, oh, yeah, it's great. Yeah, he's Ribena like the suspect is like, it's been stored wrong. It was heated to like 50 degrees. You didn't like keep it in a cool place, and like that's the gazump because the only way that wine was stored in the cellar. That's the plot point, isn't it? Because he's killed his own brother by locking him in a wine cellar and turning up the air conditioning for over a weekend. Yeah. And it like hit like 70 degrees in order, and they killed him. And then he came back and he turned back on the air conditioning. He took the body and he put it in the ocean, so it looks like he just drowned. And that's where like so. The only way to prove that the cellar was at 50 degrees would be for somebody to say that the wine was stored in there, and the only person that could do that, there's like 6 people in the world that could taste the wine and say that it was stored at the wrong temperature. But you suddenly realise like Columbo set this entire he must have he stole the wine from the cellar. He took it to this thing. He set up the whole thing. He got the restaurant on board to serve the right wine. All just for this one.
All thing. According to Kakaku.
Yeah. So even though he couldn't master this. He couldn't master the wine tasting. It wasn't sophisticated for that. Mm. But he got the other guy to do it. Yeah. It happens a few times with the blind guy episode, and the fingerprints episode. Gazump, where he convicts the suspect by having Columbo's fingerprints on the painting. And the blind guy because he's not blind. And it's like there's an eyewitness, and the eyewitness is you, not the blind guy, because he identified that there was a blind guy outside. Yeah. Why would you think that he's blind? Mm. Yeah. So there's some good like finishes in Columbo.
Yeah. I think that's without being able to do a shootout or a car chase, you've really got to have a quite dramatic finale for it to be a really satisfying entertainment experience, I think.
Anyway, I guess that was just a filler for the graphs, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, so this is like what makes a really good Columbo episode. Well, it's like it's like every other Columbo episode. They're pretty good, then with a brilliant ending, I think is what really makes the episode.
This one here is Dead Weight. Which one's Dead Weight?
Didn't we just watch it? We watched a few clips from these.
Sure, you put a summary in its table.
What was it? Anyone could do this. I mean, what was the? Did you want to talk about Time Till Columbo?
Yeah, that was one.
The graph at the bottom.
Yeah, so Time Till Columbo.
This is like your original research that you've done on this TV show.
Yeah, I mean, the idea was that how long does it take for Columbo to turn up in the episode, and how long does it take until the murder takes place, and does that reflect? Does that correlate with the quality of the episode?
So yeah, there's a murder usually that sometimes there's even like a setup for a few minutes as to why this person would want to commit the murder. Usually, you sometimes see them making the decision. Like with, it starts off everything's normal. They've got this difficult relationship with the person in their life, and then they make the decision. But due to something that's happened, they now have to kill them, and then you see them setting it up, committing the murder, and sometimes it's what is it like 10 to 20 minutes? It looks like here.
Yeah. The thing I did notice, that you can really see it on here, but there isn't a kind of interesting binomial distribution on the murders. They either take place in like the first 2 minutes. That's like the rare murders take place in the first 2 minutes. It's just bang, there's murder. But most of them take place like into the 8 to like 15-minute period, where there's like a setup to the murder. There's not always there's crime and passion ones where they have setup.
And so then the clever part is hiding them, like covering it up.
Yeah, I mean, because you can always just cut in at any point, because like you can have the story. The guy can have planned the murder, but you start from the point of the murder, and then you see what happened. And then there's the space between the murder and the time Columbo comes in. I think the only thing that this really shows is that the reboot is a bit flabbier, and that it takes longer for the murder to happen.
I wonder if that's Peter Falk not wanting to do any work.
It might be. I think it requires a bit more skill writing to make the murder happen in a sort of pacey pace. It's kind of interesting because like you'd think that the newer series would be faster, like get to the killing.
Yeah.
But the reboot is you see here this is the reboot seasons 7, 9, and 10, and they're taking. Where's the mouse gone?
It's on the other screen.
Yeah.
8, 9, and 10.
It's like the average of time to murder is like 20 minutes in season 8, and they're also the thing about. I think part of this explanation is the average is being skewed by weird.
Outlaws.
Yeah, where there's one episode in Columbo where no one dies, and that's in the reboot. There's another.
Sorry, TTC is Time Till Columbo, and TTM is Time Till Murder.
Yeah. So like season 2 is skewed here because of just one episode.
I mean, there's the data is surprisingly difficult to collect on Time Till Murder because of like the Leonard Nimoy one, which is one of my favourites, where the surgeon puts in dissolvable sutures into when he's doing surgery.
Yeah, because that one he doesn't. The murder in that isn't that guy because that guy survives.
But he kills the nurse.
Yeah,
who knows about the sutures.
Yeah. So go back to the reboot season. They kind of mess around with the formula, which you can kind of understand because I guess they thought it was a bit tired and trying to keep it fresh. But there's the episode where they fake out murder. It's like a classic Columbo setup where the woman is killed. Columbo turns up and bothers the suspect, but then it turns out that it was just a publicity stunt, and they didn't kill anyone, and Columbo is completely humiliated and they're laughing stock. And then the murderer kills the actual person and hides her body.
Right, it's like a Boy Who Cries Wolf kind of situation.
Yeah, it's called the Columbo Cries Wolf or something. Yeah, so it's that's kind of playing with the tropes. Yeah, the audience expectations.
That
of
was
what's going to happen in an episode.
That was the legally distinct Playboy Bunny episode, wasn't it? Like the not Hugh Hefner character.
Yeah.
I don't know why I just randomly remembered that.
Yeah.
Can you? Sorry,
it's the one with they've got these trackers on their wrists as well.
I forgot
They've
about
got
that.
weird beepers. Yeah. That's because that's the technology in that episode.
What are they? They're not dressed like bunnies because it's not Playboy bunnies. They're dressed like cats or mice or something.
I don't remember them being. I imagine.
Or are they just dressed in little outfits?
It's a Hugh Hefner-esque thing.
Yeah. Okay. French maids or something.
Yeah.
They live in this big mansion, and Columbo's embarrassed walking around with all these like 19 and 20-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, there's that terrible. I mean, it's not really bad, it just feels very like Don't Go There, with the sexologist episode where the woman's husband or lover is cheating on her. She's a sexologist, like that's the technology speciality in that. And it's Columbo's wife reads her books.
Yeah.
And they just nobody recognizes it's like a Superman thing. She puts on a black wig and dresses up as like some kind of weird.
Yeah.
She uses her sex powers to become really sexy. She's not like unsexy, but she's like a standard kind of businesswoman look.
Yeah.
And then she has like this super sexy look, which doesn't look that sexy, and she doesn't look that different. But apparently,
no one can recognize her now.
She goes into the toilets to change like Superman at the end because she's killed the guy, and she goes in, and like the guy is waiting outside the toilets and doesn't realize that she's come out because she's so different.
Yeah.
What I was getting back to is just that, they play around with it in the reboot, and then they kind of set towards the end. It kind of just ends quite quickly, they kind of try and go back to the formula. I think they kind of realised that you can't change the Columbo formula too much. It kind of just doesn't. It doesn't work. They tried it in the original series with that terrible.
The last one? Well,
it's not the last one. It was going to be the last one,
but
they kept going after that. But at the time of filming, they thought it was going to be the last one, and it has. And Thingy directed it.
I've forgotten his name too.
Yeah, he's the most recurrent murderer.
Patrick McGowan?
Patrick McGowan, yeah. He directs it, and like we were watching it, what is going on?
Yeah, this felt like a writer's strike. Like the actors just made up the script themselves.
Columbo comes in, and he's like. He's acting like he's high, and there's no reason for it, and the murder is a mystery. You don't find out who it is. I can't even remember what was going on.
And then there was those 2 episodes that were based on crime novels.
Yeah.
That weren't Columbo formula at all. You didn't get to see one of the murder didn't even occur.
Yeah.
It was a ticking clock kidnapping.
Columbo has a gun in that episode.
He has a gun. Yeah, it was written for a different detective, for a completely different. It was just a book about.
Yeah, they rewrote it for Columbo, but still, like you're watching it going.
And there was that treasure map one. Same deal. It was like the one right afterwards by the same author. They all had different pieces of the photograph. It was Red Rackham's treasure from Tintin, but as a Columbo.
They had to find a pit. Yeah, it was so silly.
Weirdly, the final episode ever from 2004.
Well, the Billy Connolly episode is a kind of standard episode. That's pretty strong. And also the
right up to the end, and the last episode ever.
Columbo Likes the Nightlife. Yeah,
they go back to the formula. That's not a bad episode. Columbo Likes the Nightlife.
I don't know what they go in the title. It's such a bad title.
Yeah.
And the music is terrible as well.
Yeah, that was really bad.
And they have a silly murder at the start that doesn't. Because the murder that the story is based around is actually the murder that doing to cover up the initial accidental killing.
That was
And it takes ages to get to.
The actual mystery is very convoluted, but they stuck to the formula. Is my point.
Is it this one?
Like Columbo Likes the Nightlife.
Make Me a Perfect Murder. Which one is? Murder Under Glass. Which one's that? Try and Catch Me. Oh, this is the whole thing. Season 7. Oh, this is original.
Can I
drilled down.
I randomly just remembered. It's been ages since we watched it. What do you remember about the episode where it was like some New York artists and they were going to a costume party and there was a chimpanzee in the episode? What do you remember about that? Well, the chimpanzee ended up being
he won the lottery, wasn't it? He won the lottery. That was a really that one took ages as well. It was like a.
And it was Rip Torn.
Rip Torn was it. There's Murder in Malibu. That was another terrible one here. One of the lowest rated ones.
You don't remember the how Columbo used the chimpanzee to incriminate the... he liked metal, didn't it? The chimpanzee liked to touch metal.
But how did that get him?
I don't know.
He found some metal.
He tested for the chimpanzee's fingerprints.
They went back to fingerprints. Not your fingerprints, the chimpanzee's fingerprints.
It was a good one.
I mean, it isn't.
It was... Look...
It took a long time to get going, that episode.
Yeah, but to be honest, I always just like watching a chimpanzee and like Every Which Way But Loose. Like I just love a monkey in a film. They're always just fun to watch. Like I just can't stop imagining the chimpanzee there on set with all the actors, and they're trying to like give him some peanut butter to make him go over here and like make him touch Columbo or something.
I can't remember these slightly higher rated episodes towards the end, because there's Ashes to Ashes. What was that? Oh, that was a good one. That was like the last Patrick McGowan one, where he's a funeral director.
Yeah.
And he kills the woman that has like blackmail on him. And
From
like,
years and years ago.
Yeah. And Columbo's like gets upset because somebody left the dog without any food or water.
It's like a weird, like out of character moment. Yeah. He's dealt with hundreds of murderers, but as soon as someone doesn't feed their dog, he gets really upset.
Yeah, once they give up on the, I don't think they completely give up. What is it? Is it Ashes to Ashes? It's Murder with Too Many Notes. That's the Billy Connolly one. So that's the penultimate one. You can kind of see here the gaps. Was this one 67? Got a huge gap between Ashes to Ashes. Yeah, so that's what I was kind of getting. There isn't necessarily a need in the formula for Columbo to turn up immediately afterwards. I think it's not the murder that counts, it's the completion of the crime, if that makes sense. So yeah. I was wrong to choose the actual murder as the point to track. I think then it'd be even harder to track when they finish doing the thing. Because there are some episodes where it's literally the gun goes off, it cuts to black, and then Columbo walks in.
Yeah. No, that's what I like.
What you like is that they've completed it. It doesn't have to be immediately, but they need to be relaxed and they need to be doing something. And then Columbo's in the house, like in the first episode.
He doesn't knock on the door.
He comes back from holiday and he's like looking around, and like there's a chalk outline on the floor, and like he knows he's killed his wife, but he's like, what, shouldn't there be police here? And he's looking around, and then like Columbo just walks in, and he goes like, oh, sorry. Yeah. And there's a few other times when he's just there. I think one of the times it's not a great episode, but it's the movie special effects guy. Fairly early on in the reboot one, it's he does all the murder, and then he comes back to his like cool office, and Columbo is like, he's reading the books.
Yeah, he's just I
think almost immediately he's like looking at the book that the guy brought or something, and he's like he's honed in on it straight away. Yeah. And that episode isn't that great, but it has a good example.
Columbo's just in your house.
He's just there, and he's looking at the thing you don't want him to be looking at, and it's like you have to get him away from that thing without making it look like you're trying to get him away from that thing, and that's you're seeing that tension. I mean, the other novelty one they have is the one where the murder, they're about to kill the guy's plan is to put a pipe bomb in the guy's car, and he does all the standard Columbo stuff. He's got the pipe bomb ready, and he's going there. It's all set up, and like he's going to be killed when he goes in the car. So he turns up and he should be dead, and he goes there and he's dead, but he's been hit by a car. But the pipe bomb's still in the car, and there's the police everywhere. And in that episode, it's got one of the best examples of like Columbo like knowing what the crime is, even though the crime hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Columbo's hanging around for no reason. He keeps hanging around this Rolls Royce that's got a pipe bomb in it, and he's in the car when he turns up. The guy's sweating all the way through this, and he sees Columbo in the car, and like he wants to get him out, and he goes like, there's something happening in the house, and like everyone going there, and Columbo says, "Oh, don't worry, I'll stay by the car." And there's this constant like backwards and forwards, and this guy just wants to get to the car to turn the pipe bomb off and be alone and to do it, and like all this stuff, and then like the gardener turns up and just say, because the only reason why no one started the car is because the key he's got the keys, and the thing's got the keys, so there's no keys to go in the car, and then suddenly the gardener goes like, "Don't worry, I'll move the car. Isn't it in the way? He always gives me a spare set of keys to move it if I need it for the garden." And he just runs off and just like blows up and dies, and that's the murder. That takes a lot longer for it to happen. The rest of the episode isn't that great, but it is quite that's a good example of like Columbo, because go back to the other episode, the painting one where he puts his fingerprints on it.
That was the first episode of Columbo I ever watched years and years ago before we started watching it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that one, it's like, why does Columbo want to, like, he must...
Why does he want to touch the painting?
There's the one thing, like, out of all the things he could be doing, like, he never does that as standard, like, touches the suspect stuff. He just goes, I really want to see this watercolours.
All the seeing art. I want to get some art for my house. Can I see those watercolours?
He asked about them, and the guy, like, I don't want you to look at these. And then he's really insistently, like, puts his hand inside the thing, and he's like, Columbo, look, I want to go to bed. Please go away.
He's like, I'm really tired. He's like, he comes up with excuses on the level of our 3-year-old daughter. Like, oh no, I can't show you the paintings. I'm too tired.
And he's like, I can't just like, I don't want to bother you. And he just leaves. I mean, I don't know if he knew. Did he know?
If you don't remember the fingerprints on the paintings and what incriminates the guy, because his fingerprints obviously were on his own paintings, like the paintings were the whole MacGuffin of the murder, but because he had those paintings at that moment, and then Columbo's fingerprints on the paintings proves it, and that's the evidence that he needs for.
And well, they top it even higher than that, because the guy goes like, "Oh, you just put your fingerprints on those." Like, because Columbo's just handled them.
You could have put your fingerprints on those anytime.
Yeah, like, they're right here. Like, you planted them, and like, you can't say, like, he's got gloves on.
Yeah.
It's a good.
Final frame of the whole episode is just Columbo holding up his hands with his gloves on. You don't have to see the reaction or anything. It's perfect.
Did you want to cover the wife?
My wife, or Mrs. Columbo, you mean?
Yeah, I mean that's. The wife isn't. I mean, I think it's just going to be retreading the ground, but it is a specific example of the dichotomy between the good ideal of Columbo and the kind of crappy idea of Columbo. Yeah, the idea that his wife's real.
Yeah.
Versus the idea that he's not married.
Even if he's not a ghost, if he's a real police officer, he's a real detective, he could still be like living alone. Just a really old, grizzled, cynical guy who's just pretending to be this affable married.
The thing that's when Columbo's at his best is when you don't know that he's got a wife. Yeah, I think Richard's link in the interviews that we watched, like he said, we wanted to leave it ambiguous whether he was married.
Yeah. We
didn't want to see, because if you see his wife, then he's not playing a character. But if he goes in there and he's like, oh, my wife, she loves your books. Yeah. If you think that maybe he's not married, then it puts a whole different tone on how he's talking. Because to the suspect, it's like this guy. If you talk about your wife, I guess it sort of like humanizes you and makes you like you can imagine him like in his pajamas.
And he's saying nice things about his wife, which is like, oh, he's got a happy marriage.
Yeah, this guy is like a normal guy. He's not like a devious like supervillain out to get me. He's talking about he's not very
his wife likes soap operas.
Like, I guess it's like also not professional to bring up your wife when you're talking to someone's just murdered and go like, oh, my wife loves you. Yeah, it's sort of it makes him very grounded, and if that is he's just talking about his wife and what his wife likes, that's a different Columbo to the one where he's calculated that to mention your wife is a very good way to get the suspect to relax.
Yeah. I was just going to find a picture of Mrs. Columbo, the TV show. Like, this completely ruins everything about Columbo. The existence of Mrs. Columbo, if you accept this as canon. They made a sequel TV show in the intermediate period before the reboot. Yeah,
just after it got cancelled, they went to spin-off because Peter Falk was too expensive and kind of didn't want to do it anymore. So I don't think any of the original people wanted to do it. And I think it was only called Mrs. Columbo in the first season. They changed it to like Kate Columbo and Mrs. like Kate solves a crime or whatever. It went for like I think it went for a few seasons. So
I think we watched less than one episode, right?
There are a lot more unsuccessful shows, but it doesn't really follow a Columbo format. I think she's got his car for like 1 or 2 episodes, so I think they were trying to play up the Columbo aspect. But it's just I mean, this is what is interesting is the fact that there are definite times in Columbo in the TV show where he is married to Mrs. Columbo, and she, in one episode,
Mrs. Columbo or just a woman
I
called
mean,
Mrs. Columbo?
I mean, I think he described her as being like she was never a thin person. I mean, Kate Mulgrew is also way too young. She would have been like 12 in 1968 when he first mentioned his wife.
It's his second wife.
Yeah, my second wife.
That makes you seem like a bad guy.
Yeah, I know, doesn't it? My third wife like that. But so there's this cruise ship episode is the most explicitly Columbo is married to a fat woman that explicitly
like, she's there. Other people have seen her.
Yeah,
like she's not a figment of. He didn't make her up. She's actually there. Whether she's
and you see Columbo before the murder happens. So it's not. There's no possibility that he's playing.
I mean, it's stupid. That whole episode is stupid. Like because he's not there as a detective. He's there on holiday. Yeah, it's like it's stupid. I think that video that Mrs. Columbo struck from the cannon. The cruise ship episode should be struck from the cannon.
Yeah.
The weird one where he's on drugs definitely struck from the cannon.
Is there anything funny that what even happens in that episode? Is the murder actually clever in that episode? Is it a good episode apart from? I
think most of it actually takes place in Mexico, wherever he was going.
No. You're confusing it with the.
I know there is an episode like that, but anyway.
I don't think it's like a two-parter. Does he go on holiday on a cruise and go to Mexico?
Maybe. I mean, we were talking about this for an hour. Not that I love talking about Columbo.
Is there anyone in chat with any interesting comments?
Someone mentioned the Janeway and Mrs. Columbo. Why don't you read the comments and I'll show off this book that I got for you for your birthday. Okay. This is a what do you call it? A Japanese Columbo guide. Never translated into English, but Columbo apparently is massively popular in Japan.
Yeah.
It's popular worldwide, but weirdly specifically in Japan.
It's the only place, until recently, where the Blu-ray came out, and they brought it out in a cigar box. So it was a real wooden box with all the Blu-rays in it.
So each episode, this is the one with the Pavlovian training of the dogs. You can see that they've got this sort of like manga artist to write a little comic for each episode, and they've got a picture of the murderer, and they got a little comic describing like what and they describe how the murder was done and why the episode was notable, but the comic just shows one little skit from the episode, not often. And they draw Columbo in this quite endearing little cartoony way.
Somebody says that Troubled Waters, the one on the cruise ship, is their favourite episode.
That's the thing, is like I think Columbo is perfect. I think it must have been really popular because you can just draw whatever you want out of it.
Can you?
Well, you can just enjoy Peter Falk's performance of that character because he's charming and he's funny. Yeah. You can enjoy it on that level. If you're really into mysteries and you're into murder mysteries,
well, it's not mysterious.
You can get enjoyment out of the case and the clues, and what I like about it is the sort of psychological cat and mouse game and like imagining that Columbo is a ghost. But that's obviously not how other people are enjoying it. Like my dad doesn't think Columbo's a ghost and he loves this show.
Well, I mean, I think it'd be interesting to see Columbo as a ghost as a show. I just don't think the show is never written like that.
You're right, yeah. And that's an extreme.
There are parts of the show that could be like that.
This is the episode where Columbo goes up on a cherry picker and he's scared of heights.
That's a recurring motif, is that he's the killer.
He's quite timid.
He goes in the cookery show and he's too shy to say anything.
He's embarrassed being on TV, or he gets sick on going on a boat, or he gets scared going on a plane.
Yeah.
He doesn't have much physical courage, you could say. He doesn't
like the surgery. He doesn't like the blood.
Right. Yeah. But is it just an act? Who knows? Did you want to talk about Poker Face before we wrap up the stream? Or just to mention that Poker Face exists?
There was something else I wanted to talk about.
Well, you think about it, and I'll talk about Poker Face.
I was going to go through the chat first.
Okay. I'll explain.
Wine with the poison. We talked about that one.
No, that was a different point. There was a poisoned wine one.
The poisoned wine one was
poison was in the glass. not in the bottle.
That was the high tech, and that was the bottle opener.
Oh, it was in the bottle opener.
They had a compressed air nitron. It shot the.
And he tried to kill Columbo.
Yeah, that was the first one where I think they tried to kill Columbo. Was it the first one? But he definitely tries to kill him. Yeah, he poisons.
Yeah, I can find the comic for it.
How does he try to kill Columbo? Because he poisons Columbo's food. But does Columbo eat it? And it's like, oh, and you.
Oh, he put a used up canister in it instead of the full canister, so that the poison wouldn't work.
Was that it? Poison marmalade.
Another episode that can be stricken.
Poison marmalade. Was that? Oh yeah, that's when
Mrs. Columbo.
Mrs. Columbo is in that episode because it's hard to justify Mrs. Columbo not being real considering that woman tries to murder her.
Yeah.
But he does go to that's an interesting episode because they have a fake house and pictures of Mrs. Columbo, but it's not Mrs. Columbo.
Yeah.
They fake an entire house, so I don't know if that was entirely there just to keep up the idea that maybe he's not married. Because the episode starts weirdly with a flash. Like, there's 2 flashbacks in the episodes, and it starts with Columbo's wife's funeral.
I just remembered Greg Evigan was in an episode.
Yeah, that was the one with the exploding.
The
car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He tried to blow up the car, but then didn't. Yeah, this is what I was looking for. Where this can be struck from the canon. There's the episode where Columbo doesn't mention his wife because he's in some kind of relation. Yeah, like he's in some kind of relationship with the suspect. Like they seem to be genuinely having like a little romantic moment. Where she's just
Peter
trying.
Peter Falk likes Lauren Bacall and wanted to kiss her.
Yeah, they kissed on screen, didn't they? It was it was really romantic. It was just like a kind of peck, but it was it was very weird. Like it was just a completely parallel universe Columbo, where he's not talking about his wife. Like for all intents and purposes, he's single, and the suspect is trying to win him over by like leading him on. But then she actually does start to like him. It's a real, true romantic subplot that feels so out of place and wrong, and I hate it.
Yeah, it's like it's one of the sympathetic murderers.
Yeah, and Ivanova was the
Babylon 5. There's a lot of Babylon 5 characters that come in the reboot.
This is the episode where Columbo plays the tuba.
Oh yeah, it turns out you learned the tuba. That's the sex episode, isn't it?
He actually can play the tuba.
Yeah, like he learned it at scout camp or something, and he goes, "Oh, I can play the tuba." And This is a classic like Peter Falk joke, like how Columbo he can play the tuba, and he just like walks around playing the tuba for a bit.
Yeah, maybe Peter Falk really could play the tuba.
I mean, he doesn't play it that well. It's not like, so yeah, I completely agree. There's that one where it's a secret Nazi.
Yeah. Jack Cassidy.
It's literally a magician.
There's a little cartoon Columbo.
This is his last episode before he died in a fire.
Jack Cassidy died in a fire?
Yeah, that's why he doesn't come back. He would have been the most recurring character, probably, but he didn't die.
But he played a secret Nazi who was trying to cover up his past.
Yeah. And he kills the guy that's, like, uncovering the Nazis. Oh, that's one thing I wanted to talk about, the class warfare aspect of Columbo.
High class versus, like, low class Columbo?
I mean, there's definitely, I think that's part of the appeal, is the fact that these people are all middle upper to upper class.
They're usually like the cream of the cream, aren't they?
Yeah, they're usually they live in large mansions. They're very wealthy.
In the book where they're talking about the location scouts, they tried to find the most ostentatious, luxurious mansions that were like obnoxiously wealthy.
They said that was one of the levels that people enjoyed about Columbo, was just seeing fancy houses.
Yeah, I mean it is quite nice. Yeah,
but
then you also get the righteous indignation of like being able to bring down these highfalutin.
That's part of it, isn't it? Because I mean, can you think of the lowest? The lowest
tier. There was that celebrity dentist. They thought that they wanted to write an episode about a dentist who puts in a poison crown, but they thought that a dentist wouldn't be a prestigious enough position.
Was he a celebrity dentist?
Yeah, he was like
I really don't remember
he was a dentist for the super rich.
Okay.
So he was he had this like beautiful office and patient rooms. What do you call them? Like operating theaters. He was like a really fancy dentist, but basically the writers they thought of a good way that a dentist could kill someone.
I guess the lowest ones are the two like non-Columbo written ones.
I don't even count those.
Yeah,
when you asked me, I didn't even.
No, I just wanted for consistency. include those because they're, by definition, they're the lowest ones. The composer. There's the guy that kills the mob guy. I don't think. Is he really rich?
The 2 episodes where Columbo he works with the monsters.
There's the right wing. Captain Kirk plays. What's the cigar guy? Yeah, he essentially plays. He's a talk radio.
Rush Limbaugh.
Right, he's like a Rush Limbaugh character that kills a gay
person.
He
comes back, doesn't he? Yeah. So
yeah.
So there's
Nemo's in 1 episode, but Captain Kirk's in 2. And
William Shatner, he plays the TV detective and he plays the Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah. Was he playing? Yeah, because who is he in that one?
The TV detective.
Yeah.
He's playing like Columbo, but with a funny hat.
Oh yeah, no, he's a TV. Yeah, he's a
TV. He plays Peter Falk, basically.
Yeah, I think he's going for more a Hercule Poirot.
Yeah, so he's got he wears this flamboyant suit and a hat with a big feather in it. Yeah,
I think is the lowest one the fitness club guy, because that isn't a particularly prestigious one.
He owns a fitness club.
He owns a chain of fitness clubs, and but he's stealing from the books, and one of his franchisees figures out that he's stealing from the books, and that getting into a franchise is like a con. And then he kills him. I think that's But just go back through. Is there anything to say about that? The sort of the class warfare aspect of Columbo.
I think that Columbo's low class is one of the many disarming things about him. Is that the rich people assume that Columbo is stupid because he's low class and because he doesn't have expensive clothes. And Columbo plays into that when he's like looking around their beautiful house and complimenting them and asking them about what it's like to live such an opulent life.
Yeah, I mean, it's never a very sort of... I mean, it's not as if every rich person is a bad person in Columbo. It's generally there is a rich person that is a bad person. And generally the person that gets killed is a rich person too.
Yeah, often, but not always.
Not always.
Not as consistently as the murderer being. Before we wrap up, I do want to mention Poker Face, because I think it's interesting that someone in the year 2022 has picked up...
This is Ryan Johnson, right?
Is it? I didn't know that.
It comes at the start of every episode.
I'm barely watching it because I don't really like the show. But the Poker Face is about a woman. She's not a detective. She's just a waitress who's on the run, like a littlest hobo kind of. She goes to a new place every time where there just happens to be a murder all the time.
It's got it's explicitly not like a reboot of Columbo. It's got a lot of Columboisms in there.
Yeah, and it seems like almost like they're lampshading it sometimes.
She is definitely trying to do a Peter Falk.
Well, the thing is, she explicitly has a superpower, which is that she can always reliably tell if someone is lying. So even though she can't, she doesn't have any superior insight, she's pretty smart, but because she can tell when someone's lying, when there's a murder, and there often is, wherever she goes, she can tell who the murderer is because they're the one who keeps lying about what they were doing and what happened.
Well, her thing is that she can spot bullshit. She doesn't like know the murder's happened, but she sees somebody lying about something that's a bit weird.
Yeah, she figures it out.
Why would you lie about going to the toilet, or why would you lie about wearing shoes that day? Or she spots some inconsistencies and a murder has happened, and she digs into it enough that she figures out that it's the murder.
The other thing that makes it Columbo-like is that the opening scene has nothing to do with her. We haven't even seen her yet, but you get to see the murder. You get to see the motive for the murder, and you don't always know why, but you see the murder happen, and then boom, she's there. Yeah, she's always been there, actually.
Yeah, that's a weird conceit.
Yeah, she was there the whole time.
It feels like quite a high effort thing to do that doesn't really add much to the. It's just you get to what it's like a. Is it like a? No, it's not really like.
You get like a mild aha moment where you're like, oh, she was there.
Yeah,
that
was
her.
That was the. he was handing the wine bottle off to her. She was doing that. Or,
She was on the
That's
phone.
who being shouted at.
Yeah.
It's cute, but
kind of pointless.
yeah, it's fine. Adds a little bit. It's a show that meant to be entertaining, so it is entertaining. Kind of, if you know that's going to happen, once you're familiar with the structure, when you're watching it the first time, you are kind of trying to guess what job she has that you're not seeing.
Yeah.
In the first 10 minutes.
I don't want to spend ages talking about this because it's already been an hour. It's over an hour now. But
I don't know if I'd recommend it.
For people who love Columbo or who love murder mysteries, I think there's probably an audience for this. Like, I don't think it's terrible. It's fine. I don't think I want to watch the rest of it, but I just wanted to mention it because some people might want to watch a modern day Columbo.
I mean, I was hoping I would hate it. I would watch one episode and not want to watch any more. I wouldn't say I loved it. I did kind of want to see where they were going with it.
The first episode was the best episode, so maybe watching that would be a good advice if you don't want to watch the whole thing.
I did, yeah. On the sort of like, because people talk about it, it comes up every now and again about remaking Columbo and doing a reboot of Columbo, which is arguably, you could say this is as close as we've got so far to a reboot of Columbo. I do think they miss. I mean, I don't know if they were trying to make it directly Columbo, but they miss out on like the some of the structural things that would be like a perfect Columbo episode. Really, this is more. All they're taking from Columbo is Peter Falk as a woman, and the fact, the conceit of seeing the murder at the start. And knowing who did the murder.
And she has this sort of insight.
Yeah, I think that's the worst thing about it is the fact that she's just magic.
Yeah.
It's just explicit. It's not explicitly magic, but it's effectively whatever anyone says. If they're lying, she knows. So it ends up being a little bit contrived. I noticed it in one of the episodes where, even though they don't know they're a suspect, they don't know that she's got a magic power. They say something in a way.
They can say
that isn't a lie.
Yeah.
It was a very awkward way to say something.
That's like her kryptonite.
Like if you knew that she was magic, you might construct the sentence like this, but they don't know she's magic, and it kind of, I can imagine that as it goes on, it's quite hard to construct something in a way where she's there all the time, and they're talking all the time, and she doesn't instantly know that they did.
I think they make it fairly natural, but
yeah, and it's also because she's not a policeman.
Mm.
And she's always turning up at murders. Yeah, I know that's a conceit of a lot of shows. But it does. I don't love it. It's fine. Yeah, like you said, I'd agree with like watch the pilot, and judge from that if you want to keep watching it. But if you're desperate, if you've seen all Columbo and you want something that's a little bit like Columbo, I don't know anything else. There might be something. Surprised there hasn't been like foreign language versions of Columbo, since it is popular enough. Why not just reboot it in countries that?
Could you capture the magic in a different language?
Well, no, like
with different accent?
They wouldn't care. Like the things is like most of the plebs in that country wouldn't have heard of Columbo because it's a foreign language. They might have dubbed it, but you can just. It's been like 20 years. So you can just get the rights. And, if you look at like The Office, that's been like tons of countries and. The Big Bang Theory and was it the It Crowd? Yeah, that's you buy the rights to the show and you just get some random people to do it. They did that. What was that Mexican version of Breaking Bad?
Walter Blanco. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking that the whole time you were talking about that.
I was not because I think it'd be good. I'm surprised there aren't like a load of North Korean Columbo or something. It would just be
Japanese Columbo would be good. Yeah. I think we're going to wrap up here. Thanks for watching Columbo with me. Thanks for putting on the first episode because I didn't even know I wanted to watch Columbo until you.
I think you were talking about it before.
Yeah, because we kept saying memes for it.
I just didn't tell you that I downloaded it.
It was a little surprise.
Yeah.
We didn't download it, that would be illegal.
Yeah.
we streamed it legally.
We downloaded it on iPlayer when it was on TV.
With our TV license. Okay, thanks everyone for Turkish Sopranos is a good That's a good addition. Thanks for that. Yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and I'm so glad that we have so many Columbo fans in the audience. If you want to watch P.O Box again,
All 13 of them.
I think they've all gone to Cigar Stream now, but they'll be
okay.
back. They'll be watching this after the fact. Pharaoh is going to come back to review Sleeping Beauty with me soon. So now that we've cleaned up all of our outstanding business, except for watching Inuyasha, which I still haven't done.
You watched the first season.
Yeah,
How many
maybe I'll
seasons are there?
just review the first season. I think there's something like 300 episodes, something like that. They're only 20 minutes, but yeah. Tune in for me and Pharaoh talking about Sleeping Beauty. You can watch that if you want to prepare for the stream. I'm gonna enjoy that. We're gonna have to rewatch it again because I've only been sort of vaguely aware of it last time it was on, but I watched it enough to know that I wanted to watch it again. And do look out for an upcoming video. I've got it's all edited. I just need to make a title and a thumbnail. Yeah. And yeah.
What is the title of your video?
It's going to be What Happens to Grown-Up Tomboys.
What does happen?
You better watch it and find out.
I better click that notification bell.
There's going to be so many tomboys.
I don't want to accidentally miss that one.
Yeah, you better ring that bell and click the options to be notified of future videos and streams. And tune into Wham! An Hour every Friday at 8:30. We're doing it these days. And until then, I'll see you soon. And go enjoy the cigar stream or whatever you're doing tonight. Bye-bye.